Exposed, the life-changing secrets of a hidden BR0THEL in Pompeii. Discover 5 amazing stories. Clara stood at the diner counter, her heart heavy with the weight of unfulfilled dreams while she wiped down the same stained surface she had polished countless times before. The hum of familiar conversations swirled around her, punctuated by laughter, stories, and the tantalizing smell of freshly baked pie. Yet, a lingering sadness clouded her thoughts. She watched as her small town, nestled like a forgotten gem amid the ruins of ancient Pompeii, fell deeper into economic decline. Then, in an accidental moment, she overheard snippets of conversation from a couple of regulars. Whispers of a clandestine brothel hidden beneath the volcanic history that surrounded them fluttered like ash in the wind. Clara's heart raced with curiosity, a powerful yearning to understand this secret world. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the dilapidated buildings, she felt a strange pull, a call towards something different, something transformative. With every step closer to the brothel she took, a mix of fear and excitement coursed through her veins. What awaited her there was a tapestry of women with stories that resembled her own. She met an Afghan war veteran, her eyes reflecting the battles both fought and lost, a determined mother who spoke of her fractured family, an undocumented immigrant desperately fighting for survival, and a schoolteacher who pined for the life she could have had. Each woman wore her scars like badges of honor, illuminating Clara's own struggles, the relentless effort to provide a better life for her 2 children while grieving dreams left unfulfilled. At first, Clara hesitated. The guilt gnawed at her. How could she associate with a place that many viewed as morally ambiguous? Yet the allure of shared vulnerability drew her closer. Through intimate conversations, they revealed truths that transcended their circumstances, creating bonds that felt rooted in a deeper determination. The tears they shared, the laughter that erupted during moments of levity, became threads in the fabric of their newfound sisterhood. As they whispered their hopes and fears, Clara saw herself reflected in their eyes: pain, longing, courage, but beneath their laughter, an ominous tension brewed. Rumors of the brothel began to ripple through the town, each whisper threatening to expose not just their hidden lives, but Clara's own judgments and choices. One fateful night, Clara sat at her kitchen table, facing a mountain of unpaid bills. She looked at her children's hopeful faces and felt the weight of the world press down on her. Was it her job that defined her worth? Or was it her ability to show compassion in a world riddled with judgment? Before she could find answers, a knock shattered her contemplation. The local reporter at her door, eager for the scoop that would unearth souls buried beneath shame and secrecy. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Clara's mind raced, her heart pounded with fear and uncertainty. Would she protect her newfound friends, risk everything, and defy social norms? Or would she remain silent, a bystander in a narrative that begged for change? Just then, she glanced at the women who had become more than just companions. They embodied the resilience she craved. With her choices looming like the ruins above them, Clara stood on the precipice of a decision that could redefine everything. Would she step into the light and fight for justice, or retreat into the shadows of conformity? The door creaked open, and the reporter stepped inside, a determined glint in his eye. Clara's stomach dropped. Was he here to expose her? To rip away the fragile veil of anonymity that shielded her new friends? She gestured for him to sit, trying to mask her racing heartbeat with a forced smile. Clara, right? I heard you've been talking to some interesting people. I think there's a story here, he said, tapping his pen against a notebook. Eager to begin, she felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. This was her moment to defend the women who had opened their lives to her, but the thought of the consequences paralyzed her. What kind of story? She managed, her voice shaky. The kind that reveals the truth, he replied, leaning in closer. The brothel, its impact on the women's lives, the community people deserve to know. You could help bring these stories to light. Clara took a breath. The words of her friends echoed in her mind, their secrets, their vulnerabilities, and the strength they found in unity. If she didn't speak up, who would? But the fear of backlash hung heavy. What if Martha, her next-door neighbor, who already whispered tales to anyone who would listen, found out? The scandal would engulf her family in shame. I don't know if it's south my place, she said finally, her resolve crumbling like dried leaves beneath her feet. What if it backfires? He raised an eyebrow, his gaze piercing. Isn't that what life is about? Taking risks? You have a voice, Clara. It matters. Those women's lives matter. The tension in the air thickened. Clara pictured the Afghan veteran, her pain underlined by strength, the mother determined to fight for her family, the schoolteacher consumed by regret. Each woman's stories birthed a fire within her. They needed her, just as she needed them. I'll think about it, she replied, though already she felt the walls around her heart beginning to crack. The fear mingled with exhilaration, igniting the warrior she never knew existed inside her. As the door closed behind the reporter, Clara glanced around her small kitchen. She could almost hear the murmurs of the women, their laughter floating like memories. But alongside that warmth was a gnawing fear. That night, tucked under the covers, Clara's thoughts raced. She envisioned herself sitting at a table before a crowd, her voice strong, speaking truths that could change lives. Yet alongside that image, a mirror reflected her children's innocent smiles. The duality weighed heavy, tugging at her heart, a mother torn between her responsibilities and her desires. The next morning, as light spilled through the kitchen window, she made a decision. Clara would visit the brothel again, to speak with the women. To gather their stories. But how would she approach the topic without risking everything? A loud knock jolted her from her thoughts. It was her friend Sarah, her expression a mix of concern and excitement. Clara. You won't believe what I heard. The urgency in her voice ignited Clara's curiosity. It could be a warning, or perhaps a sign. But one truth loomed large in her heart: change was coming, and she had to be ready. As they sat down at the table, Sarah leaned in, eyes wide. I heard rumors about someone planning to expose the brothel and maybe even the women involved. Clara's heart raced. With adrenaline coursing through her veins, she knew she could no longer linger in uncertainty. The moment to act was upon her. Would she rally the women together, stand side by side in the face of the storm, or would she let fear dictate her life once more? Time for choices was running out. Clara felt the weight of Sarah's words press down on her like a heavy fog, each syllable thick with dread. Her mind raced, churning through the possible outcomes. The uproar, the backlash, the devastation to her friends. She looked around her kitchen, each familiar corner now seemed suffocating, pressing in with the gravity of what lay ahead. What are we going to do? Clara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She searched Sarah's face for answers, a lifeline in the tumultuous sea of confusion swirling in her heart. We need to act before someone else does, Sarah replied, determination lighting up her eyes. If they're exposing the brothel, we need to get the women's stories out first, on their terms. Clara's pulse quickened. But who would listen? Who really cares about them? The right people, Clara. We just need to find a way. You have a voice, and if you don't use it now they might be silenced forever. Every word struck like a drumbeat in Clara's heart. The faces of the women swirled in her mind, replaying their pasts like a film. She saw the mother shielding her son from the world, the war veteran who'd fought not just for her country, but to reclaim her life from anguish, the schoolteacher, with dreams stifled but hope alive behind her weary eyes. Okay. Let us do this, Clara finally said, her voice steadier than she felt. This could be our chance to highlight their strength, not just their struggles. We'll call a meeting, gather everyone, get their stories out there. Sarah beamed, relief flooding her features. Great. We need to act fast. Before they make a move. As they plotted the meeting, excitement tinged with dread coiled in Clara's stomach. She took a deep breath, grounding herself in the moment. Yes, she'd be nervous sharing their tales, but she couldn't forget what had inspired her. The women deserved their moment to shine, she would stand with them, shoulder to shoulder. Later that afternoon, Clara headed to the brothel, determination thick in her stride. She could feel the pulsing energy of the unspoken gathering of her friends even before she stepped inside. As she walked through the door, their laughter echoed, warm and inviting, contrasting sharply with the chill of her earlier thoughts. "Clara!" The Afghan veteran called, her voice bright. The tension in Clara's chest eased just enough to allow a smile to pull at her lips. The women shrieked joyfully, and for a moment, she almost forgot the storm brewing just outside, but remembering her purpose, Clara cleared her throat, the excitement faltering. "Ladies, can we sit for a moment? There's something important I need to talk to you about." The laughter faded, replaced by curious glances. They gathered around the table, faces painted with intrigue and wonder. "I know you all worry about the brothel. I do too. But I think we have an opportunity." She hesitated, recognizing the weight of her words. "What if we told our stories? The world needs to see the truth, who we really are and what we've lived through." A tense silence enveloped the room. Clara's heart pounded. What if they were against it? What if they feared the truth as much as she did? Finally, the schoolteacher spoke, her voice soft yet powerful. "Are we ready for that? Are we strong enough to stand out there and show them our scars? What if it just brings more trouble?" Clara replied, her conviction growing. "If we don't stand up for ourselves, someone else will, and they won't share our truth. We can show that there's so much more to us. This is our chance to reclaim our lives together." As the women glanced at one another, weighing their fears against their hopes, Clara felt a flicker of something bright and fierce igniting within her, but just then, a loud crash echoed from outside, jerking Clara back to reality. Gasps rippled through the room as they exchanged fearful looks. What was that? Someone whispered. Clara's heart raced once more. Was the storm closing in too quickly? She steeled herself, ready to protect her friends. "Don't worry. Whatever it is, we'll face it together." As they moved cautiously toward the door, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a tumultuous journey. What awaited them outside? And would they stand united, or would fear tear them apart? Clara took a deep breath, willing courage to wash over her. "Together," she whispered, her voice barely cutting through the tension, as they stepped into the unknown. As Clara pushed the door open, the cool air rushed in, swirling around them like a ghost beckoning the women to step into the harsh light of day. The sounds outside were chaotic, a mixture of shouting and clattering. Clara squinted, searching for the source of the noise. "What is going on?" the Afghan veteran asked, her eyes wide with confusion, darting between Clara and the door. "Stay close," Clara whispered, taking the first few cautious steps outside. The scene that unfolded before them felt dreamlike, almost surreal. A group of men stood across the street, their voices raised in anger, some holding signs that read "Shut it down" and "End the exploitation." Clara's stomach twisted. This wasn't just a protest, it was an all-out attack. "What do we do?" whispered Sarah, gripping Clara's arm tightly. Clara glanced at the faces of her friends, each one painted with fear and uncertainty. "We can't let them intimidate us. They don't know us. They don't know our stories." Suddenly, the loud crash she had heard moments earlier became clear. A window across the street shattered, sending shards of glass spilling onto the pavement. Gasps erupted from the group of women, and Clara felt her heart thunder against her ribs. "Let us get inside," she urged, her voice firm. "We'll figure this out together." They retreated back into the brothel, adrenaline coursing through each of them. Clara's mind raced with the reality of the moment. She had hoped for a simple meeting, a chance to spark voices, but now they were standing on the brink of violence. "Did you see that?" the schoolteacher murmured, her voice shaking. "This is beyond frightening. Fear can eat us alive if we let it," Clara responded, fighting the quiver in her own voice. "But we need to take control of this situation." "What exactly do you mean, Clara?" a voice from the back asked. It belonged to a woman whose hands were clenched into tight fists, revealing her strength but also her tension. "We need our stories to be louder," Clara said, an idea igniting in her mind. "What if we turn this chaos to our advantage? We have to take our truth to them, but we do it on our terms." The room shifted, a current of determination buzzing through the air. Clara could see the glimmers of hope sparked in her friend's eyes. Yes, the fear was still there, but rising alongside it was that fierce spirit again, the one she had felt since the meeting began. "What do you have in mind?" Sarah asked, a flicker of excitement brightening her expression. "We can gather our stories, take them to social media. Let us film ourselves. Let us tell everyone who we are, why we are here, and what we stand for." Clara's voice picked up as she continued, her passion fueling the fire. "We can create a live stream. They have to hear our truth before they drown us out in this noise." A collective breath filled the space as they considered her words. Could they really do it? Could they expose themselves and counteract the violence with their resolve? The Afghan veteran stepped forward, her brow set in fierce determination. "I'm all in. If we don't stand up now, we'll lose everything. This is our home, our lifeline." One by one, they nodded, their spirits rising like the sun breaking through the clouds. Clara felt the weight of their unity wash over her, providing a strength she hadn't expected, but just as they started to strategize, another crash echoed from the street. Clara's heart sank as she recognized the voice calling out, "Enough is enough. This is our neighborhood." The anger in the voices grew as the crowd surged closer, shadows pooling at the door of the brothel. It was a wave of tension, and one that threatened to spill over into violence. Clara knew the moment had arrived. They had to act fast. "Let us get ready to film. They need to hear us, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who can't stand in this moment with us." As tensions reached a boiling point outside, Clara gathered her friends, each one trembling but resolute, ready to tell their stories. Together, she echoed her earlier whisper, reminding them of their strength. What if this was their one shot at change? What if this live stream opened doors they never thought possible? Clara felt the burn of uncertainty in her gut, yet the flicker of hope ignited even brighter now. They rushed to prepare, amplifying their voices against the chaos outside. But would it be enough? Would their truth cut through the noise and bring them the safety they sought? As they stood on the edge of this explosive moment, Clara could only wonder what awaited them next. Clara moved quickly, her heart pounding in her chest as the tension outside grew thicker. She glanced at her friends, urging them to gather their courage. Each woman was a testament to resilience, yet the fear in their eyes was a sharp reminder of the stakes they faced. "Okay, let us set up here," Clara instructed, indicating a corner of the dimly lit room. Around her, the energy shifted from fear to resolve as they began to prepare. They huddled together, nervously passing Clara's phone between them. The screen cast a soft glow that only seemed to heighten the anticipation swirling in the already charged air. "I'll go first," Clara said, taking a deep breath. "I want to express what this place means to us." Her voice quivered, but Clara steadied herself. She pressed record and forced a smile that felt foreign. "Hey everyone, my name is Clara." She poured out her truth, her dreams, her struggles, the heartaches she had faced. As she talked, she could feel the warmth of her friends behind her, pushing her forward, their collective strength fueling her words. The sound of shouting grew louder outside. They could hear the clamor of aggressive voices and the footsteps of enraged protesters. Clara swallowed hard but continued. "This is not just a place to survive. This is a community, a family." Just then, a loud bang echoed from the street. Glass rattled in its frames as they all flinched. "Keep going, Clara," the Afro-American woman urged, her fists clenched, resolute. Clara nodded, feeling the surge of determination rise again within her. She pressed on, sharing the stories of her friends of resilience and hope, of pasts full of pain transformed into futures filled with possibility. With every second, the tension outside seeped deeper into the small room. Sarah stepped up next, her voice shaking as she recounted her experience as a schoolteacher and how she was fighting against the stigma that sought to silence their stories. The camera captured the emotions swirling around her, each word earnest and raw. The veteran jumped in next, her words like thunder. "I've seen enough darkness to know that we're stronger together." As she spoke, Clara could see the strength building like a fierce wave within the room. It was infectious. One by one, they shared their experiences: the teacher who had fought for underprivileged kids, the veteran who had battled against prejudice, and the others who had endured unimaginable struggles. Each story was a puzzle piece clicking into place, painting a picture of survival and solidarity. Yet, outside, the crowd grew restless. "Shut it down!" They continued to chant, the echoes of their anger ricocheting off the walls. Clara's stomach churned as she noticed their faces twisted with hate instead of understanding. "Get ready," Clara whispered as they prepared for the finale. "We need this to be powerful." They joined hands, forming a tight circle, and directed the camera towards their collective unity. "Can we stand together?" Clara asked, knowing the answer deep down. They shouted their message raucous and united: "We are here. We matter." But suddenly, the noises outside exploded into a deafening roar. The door shuddered as it was struck, and Clara's breath caught in her throat. The crowd was losing patience. They ominously converged, stopping just short of crossing the threshold. "Hold your ground!" The Afghan veteran shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. The world outside appeared ready to swallow them whole, and Clara felt the weight of their collective vulnerability. "We've come too far to back down now," she thought fiercely. "We must hold our ground together." Could their words truly hold against the tide of anger and fear? As Clara's mind raced, an idea flashed. A risky plan sparked in her heart. What if they stepped outside together? What if they faced the crowd, unmasked and undeniably real? The air crackled with urgency. She turned to her friends, her heart pounding a rhythm of resolve. "Are we ready?" Together, they stood, breaths held tight before they took that brave leap into uncertainty. What awaited them outside? Would their courage quell the storm, or were they about to unleash a tempest? The moment had come, and Clara wondered if they were truly prepared for the consequences of their brave truth. Clara took a shaky breath, the door looming before them like a gate to another world, one that was swirling with chaos and unrest. As the chants from outside echoed louder, she felt her friend's hands grip hers tightly, a silent pact of courage between them. "On the count of 3, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. She made eye contact with each woman, drawing strength from their determination. 1, 2, 3. With a swift motion, they opened the door and stepped outside. The air hit them like a wall of noise and fury. The crowd was a mass of angry faces, some twisted in rage, others filled with confusion. Clara's heart raced as the chants blended into a roaring cacophony, drowning out her thoughts. "Look!" Someone shouted from the crowd, pointing at them with a mix of disdain and curiosity. Clara took a step forward, her feet feeling like lead. Behind her, she felt the strong presence of her friends, each woman ready to confront the storm together. "Stop!" Clara called out, her voice breaking through the noise. The crowd hesitated, a collective breath caught in their throats. "We're not here to fight. We're here to talk." Silence fell momentarily, just long enough for Clara to feel hope flicker in her chest. She glanced back at her friends, each face a mirror of fear and bravery. "This isn't just about us. It's about love, acceptance, and finding our way amidst the pain." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Clara pressed on, her voice rising with conviction. "We have stories. Our stories are full of pain, but they're also full of hope. We're not the enemy. We're human. One of the protesters stepped forward, a man in his 30s with anger etched on his face. "How can you say that? You're nothing but a disgrace." The words cut deep, but Clara held her ground. "What you see as disgrace, we see as survival. We've been pushed down, but we're still standing. Can't you see we're just trying to live?" The man faltered, his expression shifting, unsure. Clara took a step closer, her heart racing. "What if instead of hate, we chose understanding? What if you listened to our stories?" As she spoke, a faint flicker of connection began to form in the crowd. People exchanged glances, some stepping back, others leaning in, intrigued. From behind her, Sarah shouted, "My name is Sarah. I'm a teacher, and I fight for the children who are constantly told they don't matter. Every day, I tell them their voices are powerful." The crowd, once a raging sea, began to ebb slightly. Clara felt the power of their words drawing this fractured group closer together. Then, the veteran, Phyllis, stepped forward, her voice like a beacon. "I've fought in wars, and I've seen hatred destroy lives. With enough love and dialogue, we can change that." Clara looked at her friends, feeling the swell of courage in their hearts, and opened her arms wide. "Together, we can be the bridge. Together, we can choose to be better." Just then, a loud crash echoed behind the crowd. Someone had pushed a trash can over in frustration, and the tension crackled back into life. Clara's heart sank as yells erupted once again, drowning out their attempts at connection. "Hold the line!" someone called out. The crowd surged forward, anger infecting the air again. "Stay with me!" Clara shouted to her friends, the fear creeping back in. But as she locked eyes with them, she saw determination flaring in their gazes once more. What if this moment, this confrontation, shifted everything? Would they find the strength to turn hostility into understanding? Or would their attempt at connection ignite something much darker? Clara's mind raced, realizing the profound impact of their bravery. They were standing not just for themselves but for so many others too. But was it enough? And in that tense moment, as the world teetered on the brink, Clara wondered what the true cost of their truths would be. Would they break the cycle, or would they become another tragic story lost in the chaos? Clara's heart thudded against her ribcage as the chaos swirled around her. The noise of the crowd pulsed like a heartbeat, alive but fractured. The brief silence had already begun to fade, replaced by shouts and angry faces snapping back to the forefront. She took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of her friend's hands squeeze hers tighter, a lifeline in turbulent waters. "Stay together. Don't let them pull us apart," Clara urged, instinctively stepping forward. The crowd shifted like a wave, some voices rising in fury while others whispered, grappling with Clara's words. "Why should we listen to you?" Someone else challenged, a woman with tears glistening in her eyes, her frustration palpable. "You say love, but all we see is betrayal." Clara swallowed hard, the tension wrapping around her throat. "You're right," she said, her voice softening. "We've betrayed each other. We've lost sight of our humanity." The crowd paused again, the realization hanging in the air. One by one, faces transformed from anger to contemplation. Clara could feel the shift, a tight coil of emotions straining against each other, but they were still there, hope and fear crammed in a tight embrace. From somewhere in the back, another voice emerged, a deep one that commanded attention. "We're all scared. Scared of what we don't understand, scared of what we might lose." It was a man with a trembling hand raised, his face scarred but his eyes burning with conviction. "Yes," Clara said, "we're all afraid. But it's how we choose to respond to that fear that defines us." At that moment, a child's voice rang out clear, slicing through the anger. "Stop fighting." A little girl stood on a nearby bench, her tiny frame braving the chaos. "Why can't we just play together?" The crowd hushed, as if struck by a spell. Clara felt the tears prick her eyes watching the innocence of that moment. What could they learn from a child who saw the world through simple eyes, devoid of bias and bitterness? "Exactly," Sarah called out, her voice rebounding off the walls of tension. We need to find a way back to our roots. To love, compassion, and learning from one another. Clara locked eyes with Sarah, seeing the flicker of hope igniting once more. But just as Clara felt the air shift, a shout broke the calm. Who do you think you are? You're all traitors. The man from earlier surged forward, anger exploding back into his expression. The energy shifted sharply, like a gust of wind turning calm seas into a storm. Clara felt panic claw at her. Her heart raced as she took an involuntary step back, pulling her friends with her. No! Clara shouted, fighting against the tide of despair. This isn't how it ends. We have to show them what unity looks like. But the suggestion barely broke through the rising tide of anger. The man growled, You want unity? Start by admitting what you really are. And with those words echoing violently around them, Clara knew they were at a breaking point. Would they retreat into silence, or would they push through, exposing their truths for the world to see? Could they reach out through the bitterness that threatened to swallow them whole? In that charged moment, as emotions flashed in every direction, Clara felt a piece of herself shatter. It was all teetering on a knife's edge. Was it too late to turn the tide? What if their next words could either ignite a spark of change or fan the flames of division even further? Clara's breath caught, the weight of her reality pressing down on her. To stand and fight, or to flee in fear, which path would they choose? Clara stood there, adrenaline coursing through her veins, the crowd shifting around her like a restless ocean. The man's words cut deep, and she felt the unsettling weight of their meaning. The people gathered here were clinging to hurt, to resentment, and she understood it all too well. Yet, could they not see a way out? Listen! She shouted, her voice rising above the cacophony. We can either let anger tear us apart or let this moment forge a new beginning. The murmurs grew, uncertainty rippling through the crowd. A woman with a fierce gaze took a step forward. What do you mean, a new beginning? What, just forget everything? The pain? No. Clara replied, her heart pounding hard against her chest. We have to face it. We have to talk. Understand each other's pain instead of letting it drive us to hate. If we don't, we'll remain trapped in this cycle. The little girl still perched on the bench spoke again. Yeah. People can be friends. If someone is sad, we can make them happy, right? Right. Sarah echoed, glancing around. It's so easy to forget how to reach out to one another. It takes strength to say, I'm sorry, to open up and be vulnerable. But Clara could see a flicker of doubt in the eyes of the crowd, as if her words were merely threads trying to weave a fragile tapestry. And then the man roared once more. What? Are we supposed to just hold hands and sing? You think that'll fix everything? Clara took a breath, focusing on the man, whose fury seemed to boil from a place of deep-seated hurt. Maybe not. But maybe that's a start. Look at us. We're all scared and wounded, but fear doesn't have to keep us divided. I don't have all the answers, but I refuse to believe this is the end. In that instant, she saw it, honesty igniting recognition in the faces surrounding her. They were all searching for connection beneath layers of hardened sentiments, buried emotions. People began to shift uneasily, glancing at one another, breaking the facade of anger. Let us talk. A voice shouted from the back, tentative but resolute. Let us share our stories. We've ignored each other for too long. The realization spread. Clara's heart began to race again, but this time, it was with an emotion more powerful than fear. It was hope. Yes. Speak your truth. Every voice matters. This is our moment to share and to heal. An older man stepped forward, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. I lost my son, to the very violence that has haunted us. I wanted to blame others, but I know we're all caught in this cycle. And as he spoke, others nodded, understanding woven into the breaths they took. Clara felt the crowd's energy change once more, the air thick with stories waiting to erupt. They were ready, not just to listen, but to truly hear one another. But in the back of Clara's mind, a chilling worry began to creep in. Would they hold on to that newfound courage, or would pushing the past aside lead to something darker? As the first voices emerged, a chorus of raw truths, heartache, and hope, Clara found herself at a crossroads, witnessing the power in vulnerability. The feeling was like a spark about to ignite a much larger fire. Would they embrace their stories, or would fear claw them back into shadows? Clara squeezed her friend's hands tighter, ready to step deeper into this uncharted territory. What awaited them next? Would it be liberation or despair? The answer lay just beyond the next word spoken. The crowd shifted, tension hanging in the air like a taut string. Each face bore the imprints of their struggles, an unspoken history that had led them to this moment. Clara's voice rang out again, but this time it felt like an echo, amplified by a deeper yearning that hadn't found a way to surface until now. People were ready to speak, to unravel years of pain. A young man stepped forward, his fists clenched at his sides. You think sharing will change anything? You think a nice story will bring back what we lost? His voice cracked, and Clara's heart sank. The intensity of his grief splashed over the crowd, and she could see others beginning to withdraw again, steeling themselves against the openness that she desperately wanted to foster. No, it won't bring back what we lost, Clara admitted, each word a tiny flame against the creeping doubt. But stories can guide us to understand each other. They can help us heal those wounds that seem impossible to mend. The young man hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face, as though her words struck a chord in his hardened heart. Clara sensed the shift, fragile but there. Then, an elderly woman joined him, her voice steady yet soft as she spoke. I lost my husband to a senseless act, too. I hated for so long. It consumed me. Sharing our pain, perhaps, is a way to reclaim our lives from that darkness. The courage in her voice cracked the tension, a chisel against the stone wall of animosity that had been built up between them. Clara nodded, her spirits buoyed. Exactly. Look at how many of us are here, living with scars. What if we shared our pain, not to weigh each other down, but to be free? Somewhere in the crowd, a middle-aged man pulled his gaze from the ground. I blamed myself after my sister died. I didn't protect her. We all thought we were safe, but we were wrong. His voice quivered, filled with remorse, yet his honesty was a lifeline. Clara stepped closer, the sorrow in his tone resonating with her own. Together, we could be a shield for one another, Clara urged softly, a plea painted with desperation. Every story we share is a crack in the wall that divides us. Have we not been hurt enough? Don't we deserve to reach out, instead of retreating into our corners? Several heads bobbed, and it felt like the pain held inside was swirling, pushing for release. The tension began to lift, as if a weight had been released with each spoken truth. Clara's heart raced, perhaps this was what they had all needed, and they could finally emerge from their cycles of anger. An unexpected laughter rippled through the crowd. A young woman, perhaps in her 20s, raised a hand hesitantly. I mean, what if we pooled all our stories in one book? It could be our angry chronicles against the world's indifference. Her smile was tentative but infectious, contagious enough to draw out the corners of mouths that had been downturned far too long. That might not be such a bad idea, the young man of earlier said, a hint of a smirk breaking through his bitterness. His gaze fell upon Clara. What do you think? Can we really turn this pain into something worthwhile? I believe we can, Clara replied, emboldened by their glimmering agreement, an oasis of hope amidst the desert of despair. This is your moment. Let it be a chapter for our lives, a record of our resilience. As stories continued to flow, Clara sensed that belly-deep fear beneath the surface. What would happen when the truths became too raw? Would they recoil in horror, or would they face their heartbreak together? They were on the brink of something big, a shift not just for them individually, but for their community as a whole. Yet Clara recognized the lurking shadows of the past still hanging in the corners of the space, waiting to claim them back. As the sunlight began to dip, casting long shadows over the group, Clara felt a tremor of anxiety pulse through her. Would they commit to this journey, or would fear swallow them whole? With a pounding heart, she took a deep breath, ready to embrace both the light and the dark of what awaited them, knowing that each voice would uncover deeper truths than they ever anticipated. What was hidden beneath those truths would spark a revelation that could either unite or devastate them all. Clara stood in the midst of swirling emotions and tensions, her heart still racing as she glanced between the sea of faces. They had begun to share their stories, their truths, a wave of vulnerability washing over the crowd like a cleansing ritual. The sun dipped lower, casting a golden glow that filled the air with warmth, yet Clara could still feel the weight of each unresolved wound pressing against them. She shifted her weight, feeling the unease blend with determination within her. "This is just the beginning," she urged the group. "Let us keep talking. If we can learn to listen, maybe we'll start to understand each other." Around her, nods encouraged her, flickers of hope igniting in the lingering shadows of doubt. Another voice rose from behind. "What's the point of talking?" An older man challenged, bitterness dripping from his words. "Do you really think it will change anything?" Clara's stomach churned, but she held her ground. "It can change everything. It's what binds us together as a community, not just what separates us. Right now, we're at a crossroads. We can stay angry and afraid, or we can start finding solutions together." Just then, the little girl from before jumped down from her perch. "If you're all friends, maybe we can have a party. No more fighting." Her innocently profound proposal shattered the tension, evoking laughter from unexpected corners. Clara felt a tangible shift. "Yes. A community gathering, a place for us to share not just our fears, but also our joys," Sarah chirped, her enthusiasm infectious. Another voice this time, a middle-aged woman added, "Wouldn't that be something? A potluck where we break bread and share stories?" The crowd stirred, murmurs springing up with each new idea. They discussed combining food and storytelling, the power of human connection taking center stage, igniting a project that pulled them away from the brink of chaos. "Let us plan it," Clara exclaimed, a rush of excitement flooding her. "We can invite everyone, our neighbors, everyone who holds a piece of this community." Lighting up with newfound momentum, Clara felt energy rising around her. With zeal and laughter rippling through the crowd, ideas began to flow as anticipation burgeoned in their hearts. Clara could see the light flickering to life in their eyes. Each suggestion became a thread sewing them closer, a fabric woven with collective dreams. As the event approached, Clara became not just a participant but a guiding force. She helped organize the gathering in the town square, watching as contributions rolled in from unlikely sources. From desserts to main dishes, flowers to decorations, every participant poured their heart into the event. The once divided community started weaving together a tapestry of shared memories and experiences. On the day of the gathering, Clara's heart swelled with pride and apprehension. Tables overflowed with food, laughter danced in the air, and the moon cast a magical glow over the square. Clara took a moment to soak it all in, the transformation before her painted clearly against the lingering shadows of the past. As she stepped to the center, she felt the collective gaze of her neighbors. There they stood, not as adversaries but allies ready to forge a new narrative. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice strong and steady. "Tonight isn't just about celebrating, but about healing. We're learning from our stories to shape a future that preserves our humanity." The cheers that erupted felt like a wave crashing against a shore, washing away misunderstandings and pain. Friends shared baked goods, laughter, and heartfelt stories, connecting like strands in a beautiful tapestry, and then, it happened. Clara's Afghan friend, carrying the weight of her own journey, stood to share. "You all have shown courage, and through every struggle, I have found strength. I love this community. Let us promise that we won't shy away from one another again." Tears glimmered in eyes as the truth resonated, an affirmation of shared resilience, generations leaving their marks on an ever-evolving history. Clara watched as empathy took root, letting every note of laughter fill the atmosphere. As the night unfolded, boundaries began to blur, walls crumbled. Conversations flowed. Clara felt lighter, like a breath of fresh air had washed through. She realized that this was it, a pivotal moment, and they had turned toward each other instead of retreating into anger. Later, gathering to say goodbye as the evening quieted, Clara's heart soared. Each woman, each story mattered. They had become a powerful collective force, rewriting a long-neglected chapter in their lives, daring to hope again. Joy bubbled in Clara's heart every moment they had chosen. Strength built a foundation for tomorrow. That night, as she tucked her children into bed, Clara couldn't shake the feeling of triumph. Change didn't come from shouting or fear, it sprang from love, patience, and unity. Together they could illuminate the darkness that lingered too heavily in their lives, shifting the narrative from the shadows into the light. With a final glance outside, Clara allowed herself a smile, optimistic, full of hope. They had stepped into their truths and forged connections that would last far beyond that night, a reminder that every voice could alter the course of history, one story at a time. Now, more than ever, it was clear, it wasn't just about the brothel, or fear of exposure. It was survival, love, and the ability to stand shoulder to shoulder amidst the unknown that defined them. Clara dreamt of a blossoming community, posturing themselves against the odds. Together, they would change the world, one heartfelt conversation at a time. As you sit here reading, remember that your voice is powerful too. You need to subscribe now to catch how this incredible journey continues. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second. Hit that like button to feed the algorithm and help bring more stories to life. And please comment below, sharing your thoughts and feelings about this transformation. Lastly, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this journey unfold together. Let us make a difference.